Good morning. My name's Kimberley Modesitt. I own NatEv Life Landscaping. We are a custom landscape design and install business. I've been in business for about 26 years now. We provide custom designs for all of our clients, so I don't do cookie cutter landscaping. When I work with my clients, it's one-on-one, and we create a garden that's specific and unique to you. Our style of gardening is very similar to botanical gardens, so it's not going to be layered hedges unless you specifically ask me for that, but it's more natural, like you're walking out in nature. Today is probably one of my favorite classes that I wanted to teach forever. Somebody's phone? So this class is awesome for me because when I create my gardens, I take into account that there's so many plants out there that people are unfamiliar with that when you go out and explore your gardens, you can walk along and have a whole smorgasbord of food and petals or flowers or the leaves or whatever of the plant without even realizing it. There's stuff that you put in your garden that you buy in the garden center that you may not even realize are edible, such as the magnolia. The magnolia it's not I shouldn't say that. The leaves are edible, but not where you can chew on them like a salad. It's more like where you use them in stews. But the petals, the white petals on the southern magnolia and the Sweet Bay magnolia. And then there's a whole other list of magnolias that are not available down south because they're not hardy down here. But those are the two down south that are here that are actually edible. They taste like, they've almost got a very mild sweet taste to it, like a little bit like sweet lettuce. I incorporate them into my salads all the time. They're very, very healthy. They got vitamin C in them, and it's just something different. You walk around the garden and pick a flower, but make sure that your trees have not been sprayed or treated, and that goes with the same with any plant that you're working with. I usually let the plant go through a cycle when I bought it from a garden center because I don't know what the nurseries that they're coming from, if they treat them. I let it go through a full cycle before I start snacking and nibbling through the garden. So today, I'm not going to be long-winded like I usually am, but I just want to touch on some of the plants that are in here. And I actually had to hold myself back. I'd had like 20 pages, and I was still going. So I kept it to, I think 10 is what I cut it down to. But I just wanted to touch on some of them. We talked about the magnolia petals, and I tried to put some recipes on here as well that you can try at home that you can keep in mind. You do have to be careful of your plants. If you're not sure, I'm done. You definitely want to do some research and make sure that the plants that are in your garden are the correct species, because there are some magnolias, in particular the little gem, which is very popular in our gardens down here. That one is not an edible plant. The leaves and the petals on it are actually toxic. So make sure that before you go and snack on something in your garden that you have the correct species. If you're unsure, it's better to come back to Busy Bee and ask. Or you can do some research as well and ask, okay? So I put a recipe on here for how to pickle your magnolia petals. It's really simple, super easy. It takes about a day or two to pickle them. The longer you leave them, the better the flavor because it absorbs all of that. You can also use them in as a magnolia tea. So you just steep it the longer you steep it, the better the flavor that comes out of it. But they taste like ginger and cardamom. The ones that have more yellow on the petals are more gingery and cardamom flavor. The ones that are white down here are, like I said, more buttery in flavor. For those of you that like a sweet tooth, you can actually dry the petals. You can put them on a tray in your oven at 200 degrees, 225, and let them bake for about an hour until they're dry. You want to keep checking them. And then you crumble them into a powder, and you can actually dust them on cakes and cookies. And it's a nice little sweet addition. The petals, yeah, the white petals. Sweet Bay magnolia, that's the one with the leaves that you take the leaves and you can dry them. You can also use them fresh. That's what we flavor stews with, or soups. That's the one I take the fresh leaves off of it. I have a tree in my backyard, and I just pick the leaves and I crumble them and put them in my soups and stews. You can also make a vinegar solution out of this one as well. For flavoring, you can add it on to anything. I mean, you can add it onto your mashed potatoes if you want to, just for a little bit of extra flavor. The next plant I want to talk about is the red button ginger. Unfortunately, we weren't able to source any today. Apparently, there was 2 delivery trucks that just decided not to show up this week, so we couldn't get any in for you. But if you see them in a nursery. Tina definitely has them here regularly. They'll be along the far road or the far street, whatever you want to call it. They have them there. They will grow up to 6 feet tall. They have this really cool, almost pine cone like button on it. That's not the part you want to eat. That part is actually toxic. It literally looks like a red pine cone. You want to wait for these really pretty little reddish yellow flowers that come off the sides of those. And if you can get them before the ants get them, and even if you don't, ants add extra protein, or you can wash them off. You just pull those petals out and you can pop them in your mouth and eat them. I mix them in with salads. They actually taste like crisp green apple. They are very, very high in vitamin C, and they're yummy. I have one client that I was given free reign to do whatever I wanted with in her garden, in their garden. And I have edible plants all the way down. She's got about 3/4 of an acre, and all the way down all sides of her house, she's got something that she can nibble and snack on all the way. And we have different pockets. And she's like, I love going out in my garden because I just snack all day long. But this one, I try. I go through, guys, with my crew. I have one crew that I work, but I kind of rotate through with people that actually work for me. And every time I have somebody new that comes on, I'm like, you got to try this. And I'll go and pick one. And notoriously, the face is like, I'm not trying it. You try it first. I'm like, okay. So I'd eat it. And they're like, you didn't get sick or get poisoned or anything? I said, no, it's an edible plant. Try it. And they like just bite the little tip of the petal off. And then they realize how yummy it is and they try it. But notoriously, there are a lot of plants in your gardens that you can snack on. The next one I want to talk about is the invasive dollar weed that we fight in our lawns all the time. Please, before you go and harvest this, make sure that your lawn care company has not treated it. But if you get it when it starts coming out, they're actually really, really good for you. The stems are bitter, but the actual leaves themselves, mix them in with salads, or you can steam them as well, but I like them better fresh. It's a great way to constantly have a source of greens because they're always in your gardens. You can also make a kimchi or a kraut with them too, if you pickle them. The other one is purslane. Everybody's familiar with this. It's a common weed in our garden. We also sell it in the garden centers and nurseries, the prettier varieties. That is actually an edible plant. So you want to make sure that you harvest it. I pull the whole plant and then cut the roots off, fully wash it because the soil can get trapped in the little crevices of the leaves and what have you. But in the... It almost got me. I'm just going to stay here. In the Mediterranean area, the purslane is usually tossed into salads. They also flavor soups with them. In Mexico, they chop it up and they'll add it into omelets. You can also steam it lightly for 4 to 5 minutes and add some salt and butter to it, and it's really good. It's packed with vitamin C. It goes great with cucumber. Mix it into a cucumber purslane salad and top it with an oil vinegar dressing. You can also add it to smoothies. You kind of lose the flavor in it, but it still has all the vitamins and nutrients in it. My next favorite plant is this one. This one is so underused. It is a hibiscus. It's called a cranberry hibiscus, and all parts of it are edible. The stems are a little bit tough. Okay, don't eat the roots because that's kind of gross. But the stems are a little tough, so I usually just pick the leaves. The leaves have a tart cranberry flavor to them. Again, I would wait to go through a cycle in your garden before you eat them because the nurseries that they come from, they will treat them with pesticides and chemicals. But you can take the leaves and eat them straight. You can mix them in salads. You can take a handful of the leaves and steep them in teas. The tea that I made today that is the rose hibiscus tea is that plant. But I actually used the petals of the plant instead of the leaves on this one. So like I said, this is a really nice addition to your garden. It's not a traditional hibiscus where it's going to grow nice and full and bushy. It's kind of got a leggy, floppy habit to it. You do have to keep it regularly pruned unless you like that, which I do. I like how it just kind of meanders and it literally kind of grows like this, up and down through your garden. It'll get about 3 feet wide-ish. If you never prune it like I kind of have a habit of doing, it'll get 4 feet. And then I cut it back hard. End of February, early March, in that spring pruning time, I cut it back to like 6 inches, and it comes back nice and full. And then I take those cuttings and I take them inside and eat them. Full sun. It'll take part shade, but it'll do better in full sun. And the really pretty thing about this It has gorgeous dark cranberry red flowers on it that you really don't see until you walk by and you look at it and you notice that it's in full bloom because the flowers are the same color as the petals, but they're just stunning. The reason I like this is because it's very high in vitamin C, B2, B3. It's just a great all-round nutrient plant. Absolutely. I have them on in that garden that I was telling you about and have had no issues. I mean, they're right on. They're not. They're in the anchor, and their property backs onto the lagoon, river, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, they have wind tunnels both sides, and had no issue with them.
So the irrigation is the brackish?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it deer and rabbits in it?
Haven't had any issue with it. I don't have deer at my house, but I have rabbits like that live in my garden. They don't touch this. Okay. No. Yes. Yes, they are. They can, but they're easily pulled. Again, I just kind of leave them and let them take over. My garden is very natural. Yes.
What pests like them?
So aphids, whitefly mostly. Sometimes they can get scale on them, but instead of spraying them, if I spray them, I'm going to use a safer soap or neem oil, which is an organic pesticide. I don't like using pesticides in general. I would rather release beneficial insects into my garden or use the safer soap or the dish dawn and water treatment, or simply just cut it down. Cut it below where it's infested and throw it in the garbage. Don't put it into your compost area if you have one, because it'll just spread through everything. But yes, it is a little bit invasive. They will pop up everywhere, but I just kind of leave them. Okay. The next one is, wait, which way to go? The next one is the butterfly pea flower, and I apologize. I actually have two plants at home that I meant to bring so you could actually see. They are a rambling, sprawling vine. It's not a vine that will attach onto your house or any structure and do damage to it. It needs some sort of structure for it to twine around, because it is a twining vine. They grow aggressive.
Thanks.
You're welcome. They grow very aggressively. So they'll sit there when you first put them in, and you think, oh my gosh, they're not going to grow. And then all of a sudden overnight you walk outside and it's 3 times the size it was when you first put it in. They do die back to almost nothing. They go all brown. In the wintertime, if you get that cold snap, they'll be covered in the seed pods. You can take those seed pods and you can plant some and give them to your friends, or just plant them elsewhere in your garden. But they are incredible because the flower is literally this color. It's absolutely incredible. And this is probably one of the most underused plants, underknown plant, kind of hard to find. So if you want to start a new business, take those seed pods and grow some and sell them to everybody. But they're incredible. I do have some here in a tea. I basically took a couple handfuls of the butterfly pea flowers and steeped them in water for about 20 minutes, and it has this incredible dark blue color. But the best thing about this plant, it's actually been scientifically proven to help ward off and treat cancer cells. It is an anti-inflammatory. My daughter, I've talked about her a lot before. She has her own business where she makes all natural essential oil-based products. She actually has a product called Unwind, which is an anti-inflammatory pain relief lotion, and she uses ground up butterfly pea flower in it. And I'm telling you, this stuff takes all the pain away. So the flowers of this plant are absolutely amazing, the healing properties that they have with them. So it's the, if I can say this right, anthocyanin compounds that are called ternadins, which give the plant its vibrant hue, the blue color, but that's what also gives it all the beneficial properties. Obviously, you're going to get more health benefits if you use the fresh flowers versus the dried flowers, but you can dry the flowers and use them. You'll get a weaker portion of the plants. Drink it every day. There's nothing but good stuff in it. We literally keep a picture of it in the fridge. And yes.
Is it full sun or shade or?
Both. So it'll grow full sun, not full shade, because it does need some bright light, but the more sun it gets, the more prolific it'll flower. Okay? It is a vine. It is not a bush. A wire fence would be awesome. I have them planted on several customers' houses on lattice. We create these really beautiful lattice panels, and we just let them grow up through the lattice panels. But it absolutely does need a structure to grow on. Otherwise, it'll just take over. Yes, sir. Not happily. They'll struggle. I have them right now in 3-gallon pots, and I have to keep cutting them down to nothing for them to thrive. They just get to about this tall, and then they get leggy, and they're like, I want to be in the ground, I want to thrive. But no, they won't do well in a pot. Any other questions about the butterfly pea? Yes. Tina is trying to do her best to find it. I can source them down south. I'm going to try and help Tina to be able to get them here for you. I'm also in the process of growing some myself, so I may be able to help with a few of those. There's actually only one nursery that I know of down south that carries them, unless I go all the way down to Homestead. But in Fort Lauderdale, there's a nursery called In Living Colors, the retail side, and they have them there, but the wholesale side is called Black Olive East. They're the only place that I can source them that's 2 hours away. But like I said, I'm going to work with Tina and try and get some in for her or for you guys so you can buy them. But they are a phenomenal addition to your garden. Okay? Yes? Absolutely. You just have to realize that in the wintertime when you get that cold snap, it is going to die back. It's the thing that a lot of people forget down here is that all the plants that we plant down here are actually deciduous plants. And if you don't know what that means, it means that they die back in the winter and then they sprout back out again. So as long as you remember that and don't panic because, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I came out after a cold snap and it's all brown. It's okay. It's going to come back again. You don't even have to cut it all the way back to the ground. I do just because it keeps it a little bit less leggy. But it will sprout on those old vines instead of having to pick through and cut the dead ones out. That's why I cut it down to nothing or almost nothing. Yes.
If you have growing on a trellis and you're trying to manage the size, is it still going to produce a lot of flowers?
Yeah. So I wouldn't cut it regularly. I let it grow. If it's on a trellis, I let it come out about 1.5 feet to 2 feet, and then cut it after the bloom and flowers. It'll bloom pretty much all year long, but when it starts to get more sporadic blooms on it, that's when I'll shear it hard. And I take it back right to the trellis and let it come back out again. That's one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of landscape companies do here in Florida is they cut things all the time. So hibiscus, we lose the flowers on the hibiscus all the time. Same thing with this. The butterfly pea flower, you cut it, you're not going to get those flowers. You literally only need a handful at a time to make your teas. But you can store them, you can dry them, you can put them on the counter and let them dry on a tray. You don't have to dry them in the oven, but you can store them until you get enough to make a tea. You can actually also buy the flowers on Amazon. My daughter, she uses so much of them in her products that we can't support the growth or can't grow enough to support it. So you can buy big bags of it on Amazon. Look at the source. Don't buy the cheapest one. Look for the organic ones because those are going to be the ones that are non-treated with chemicals, and then they're safe to drink. And if you don't want to go through the hassle of steeping the flowers, they have a blue matcha powder, which is the butterfly pea flower ground up into powder. But that one is not going to have as many beneficial properties to it. Okay? Yes? Look to make sure. Some of them are, some of them are not, and then you want to read the ingredients too. You want to make sure that they don't have fillers in them. A lot of companies will add sweeteners or sugars into them, and they're just nasty tasting. I just go with the straight powder. If you didn't get a chance to try it, it's very earthy tasting, so it is an acquired taste, but I just mix it with honey. There's nothing, or just drink it straight, but it's so good for you that you kind of get past that. All right, the next plant is the cocoa plum. I love this plant. It is very, very high in vitamin C. They're kind of bland tasting, but if you don't cut your plant regularly, the cocoa plums regularly, they will send you fruit through late spring through early fall. And you pick them when they turn not green because that'll be really bitter. You pick them when they turn that plum color, and then you can eat them straight off the vine or off the shrubs.
How big are they, those plums?
The plums are usually about this big. Sometimes they'll be a little bit smaller, but again, just wait until they turn that plummy blue color before you pick them.
They have a big seed in them?
They do, but the seeds are actually edible. They're almond flavored. Mm-hmm. Yep, you can roast them and crush them up. I tend not to eat the seed raw because they're a little too bitter. I'll roast them and crush them up. Yes. That's a good question. I would think so. They are a native plant. I've never personally tried. I know that it's not a grafted plant, so I would think that you'd be able to. Okay. The question was, can they be grown from seed? I think they can, yes.
I will say yes because my neighbor has some and they're constantly dropping in my yard.
And growing from there? Beautiful. So if you need a source for cocoa plum, just make contact with this lady right here. She'd be happy to share. Okay, the other one we all know is sea grape. If you've never had sea grape jelly or sea grape wine, the jelly is phenomenal. Like you can make pies out of them, like a jelly pie. However, you do have to know, and I need to make you very aware of this, you cannot harvest sea grapes off of public land. You also cannot harvest them from a friend's property without their specific permission. There actually is a bylaw in place. So don't go out. You're not allowed to trim them, prune them, cut them on public land at all. It's because it's a protected species. It's one of the big plants that they use as a windbreak from the hurricanes. So they don't want people going in and just whacking down to nothing. So if you're along the beach and you see these beautiful sea grape ready to pick and ready to use in your jams, just leave them. Just admire them, take a picture, and grow your own at home. Okay? I did put the recipe on here for sea grape jelly. I have yet to, I've made it once. And the reason for that is because I have great big huge trees and I either can't reach them or the birds come along and eat the sea grapes just before they're ready to be ripe. And then I come out overnight and they're gone. So you can net your trees to be able to protect them. Sea grapes, please listen to me on this. Do not plant a sea grape here and then plant the next one right here and the next one right here. They are trees. They do not like to be cut back to 2 feet. The one in my backyard is about 30 feet tall. I've pruned it maybe twice in the 17 years that it's been in the ground. It is a tree. They do not like to be kept as hedges. That's not their purpose. They're eventually going to cry and die on you because they don't like it. You can cut them down severely if they're just getting out of hand for the space. You can cut them down severely like once a year if you have to. I usually wait 5 years before I do that. But they just got so many benefits to them.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I have a bunch in my backyard. They're all dropping red leaves now. And is that normal this time?
They are. Yeah, absolutely. They are a very messy tree. So if you have it beside a pool area or in a cultured, manicured backyard, it's not the best plant to use. It's more something to use, not in the wild, but a more rustic. But yes, absolutely. They're going to drop leaves all year long. Yes.
My family's from the Cayman Islands, and I was looking at your recipe, and instead of the sure gel, you can use some green grapes when you're boiling it.
Yep, to sweeten them.
Gives that gel. No,
The pectin in them to thicken it. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. If you didn't hear this, if you do make the recipe for the sea grape jelly, instead of the sure gel, you can actually use green grapes boiled in with the sea grapes in order to thicken up the recipe.
green grape from the plant.
Yep, just from the store or from the sea grapes too. You can also use green grape, like actual green grapes in them too. Yes. Yeah. This is another suggestion that if you don't want to use I don't like using the sure gel stuff because it's a chemical. There's so many different natural options, and what was just set up here is that you can use the white pith off of oranges, and it has natural pectin as a thickening agent as well. Okay. Roses. I specifically put knockout roses just because I think they're amazing. But you can actually eat any type of rose. Drift rose, knockout roses, fairy roses. I'm from up north, so there's a lot of roses that we don't get down here, but I'm familiar with. Every part of a rose plant is edible, even the stems, but they're kind of fibrous and gross, so I don't. And the thorns you don't want to eat as well. But the leaves are edible, the petals are edible, the hips, before they're dried, are edible. You can dry them, and they're edible. You can make teas out of them as well. You can use them for baking. I bake a lot. My daughter has kind of inherited that tradition as well. But we have roses growing in our garden, and I don't treat them. Knockout roses and drift roses are the best roses down here to use because they don't require regular spraying. They don't get a whole lot of insects that attack them. And then I just use beneficial insects. But you can use the petals to decorate cakes, either fresh. You can use the entire rose to decorate the cakes if you want to. They're completely safe, like I said, unless they're treated with chemical. So wait through a cycle on the plant before you start harvesting the roses on them. Okay? Roses are full of vitamin C as well. I think the second last one that I have on here is bougainvillea. For years, have been using the bracts on the bougainvillea plants. The bracts on this is the bract. This is not actually the flower. The flower on these is these are going to open in the middle. The center is the flower on them. These are the bracts. I have been using these for years in tea. I just take a handful of them and, well, a couple handfuls of them. They're very, very light in flavor. They do have vitamin C. A lot of these plants are vitamin C sources, but I just take a handful of them and make a tea out of them and sweeten it with honey. And then I did some research, some further research, and I have since figured out that this source that I found was completely bonkers because it said the bracts are toxic and it's the flowers that you're supposed to eat. Not true. The bracts have been used in cooking and baking for years and years and years, and I actually put that information on here that you can infuse them in teas, you can add them to salads. Think how cool it would be when you have company or just to impress your family. You serve a salad and it's full of bougainvillea flowers. How pretty would that be? And then mix in some red button ginger for crisp green apple. So think outside the box and add some of these flowers from your gardens. Please don't come into the nurseries and pick them because they will be full of chemicals. And Tina's not going to be happy if you come in and snip all her flowers off her plants for her. You can also use them as a garnish, again, on cakes and cookies. Make sugar cookies with the frosting, put a bougainvillea flower on the top or petals on the top. It'd be really pretty. This blog that I put here, I'm not going to read it all. You guys can read it. But I actually pulled it directly from a site that is they're chefs, and they use it a lot in their cooking. This is just some of the ideas that they use it for. The last one that I'm going to talk about is nasturtium. Do you guys know what nasturtium is? Tina has them available all the time. They are peppery tasting, the flowers on them. You can use the flowers and the leaves. They've got a very strong pepper flavor. So again, you can mix them in with your salads. You can steam them very lightly. The seeds are edible. They have the strongest flavor. They're like capers, so a lot of times you can pickle them instead of using them straight. The stems are like chives. I don't like the stems as much, but I mean, it's a personal taste, what have you. But the cool thing is they're also a companion plant. You can plant them with tomatoes. They work very, very well together. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
How do you propagate that?
Just let it grow. So you can take them.
If I want babies from it.
It'll send out on its own. So as soon as those flowers, these are just about to flower. So when they flower, you'll get a seed head on it. It turns brown, and it'll send out like 1 billion seedlings on it. You can harvest that and plant your own. Just plant 2 or 3 in a pot, in a potting soil, and you'll be able to easily propagate. Or if you don't cut it back, you'll find seedlings everywhere in your garden, and you just dig them up and.
Something that it's considered woody that you could.
You can, but it's so much that's so much more hassle than just plant the seeds. You can definitely take cuttings off of them and use rooting hormone and stick them in the ground, but I mean, it's not exactly invasive, but they're so prolifically seeding on their own that I wouldn't take the time of using rooting hormone.
Are the seeds in a pod?
Mm-hmm. Yep. You'll see it as soon as the flower is gone, and actually you can it looks like this same shape right here, but they'll be about this big, and they're brown, reddish brown color, and they'll be full of seeds on the inside. Yes? The cranberry hibiscus, I have no irrigation system at my house at all, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to trial to see how things do. So if I'm lucky, I remember to water it, and it does fine. When you first plant something, and this goes across the board, it doesn't matter whether you have an irrigation system or not, you do want to make sure that you water it for the first couple weeks every day. And then the second set of couple weeks, you water every other day. And then after that, I leave it on their own. And I kind of want to see how they're going to survive. But I have them planted in full hot sun in pure sand because I wanted to see how it did in pure sand. It's thriving. It's doing amazing. And then I also have them part shade, and I have a couple that have seeded in full shade, and they're still thriving. They don't get as many flowers in the full shade, but they're still doing great. Okay. Any other questions?
Do you recommend just planting in the regular ground? Or
I always amend. But I mean, I can preach that all day long. When we go out and do our plantings, we use composted manure. Unless it's an acid-loving plant like magnolias or an acid-loving plant, then I'll mix peat in with the composted manure. But I always do a 50-50 ratio. So whatever I dig out of the ground to create the hole, I mix that same amount of composted manure, and then we backfill it and create a well around it. Florida has no nutrients in the soil at all. It literally is pure sand. So they're not going to thrive. They're going to do okay for a little while, but unless you regularly add compost manure or use a granular fertilizer 3 times a year, spring, summer, fall, it's not going to do as well as it would without. Okay. Yes. The nasturtium is an annual. I cut mine back and they'll reseed, they'll regrow. I have a raised vegetable garden and I just let it trail down the side, but it is an annual. Okay. Yes.
Are all hibiscus and purslane edible, like all varieties?
I believe so. Hibiscus, yes, absolutely. Not the leaves on the regular green, it would just be the flowers, but all hibiscus flowers are edible. This is the only one that I'm aware of that the whole plant is edible. Okay. In case you didn't hear that, she was asking whether all hibiscus were edible and purslane as well. I'm pretty sure purslane as well. The one that I talked about here is the weed that we see growing, but the ones that are the cultivated varieties are edible as well.